Let's talk. Yeah, you 6-speed guys, you know, I used to love to roll my gears. Now I'm smarter. These cars are so much faster and they can do a lot more for your driving, and you not have to sit there and take your concentration off. Oh shit, what gear do I need to be in? Yeah, no, it's done. It's done that thinking for you, so you can focus on passing the next ZL1 1LE that is a 6-speed, or the Z06 with the Z07 package, or the C7 Z06 that's overheating, or the C6 Corvette or Z06 that's overheating. You can be out there with a Camaro and kicking ass.
You're the best doggy ever. That's it. That's my Fletcher.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you've seen the last couple videos, you'll know that I just picked up this amazing shock yellow ZL1 1LE A10, and due to my research in 2019, only 10 were ever made in this combination in this color, and it's just an amazing car. If you followed the first video, Skylar Scott at Wooster, Ohio Chevrolet hooked us up. This car is amazing. I've spoken to the original owner. It has 15,000 miles. 1,800 miles ago, the 2019 engine was removed and replaced with a brand new current production LT4 with a brand new supercharger. That's right. So our engine combination has only 1,800 miles. Now, the new owner of the car, before I got it, had put a DSX flex fuel system on it, a pulley. He's got the 8.5-inch pulley on the bottom with the ATI balancer. It's not the 917 that I have. So I think that's about an 8 to 10% overdrive. Nonetheless, it's on there. And there's a couple other modifications like the Cordes, or Cords, however you pronounce his name, expansion tank. And it's not an expansion tank. It's not an expansion tank. And I will say that again. It has an O-ring seal. So it's just an auxiliary tank that adds more coolant to the system. Let's take a look at this. All right, so we've got her on the lift. We've moved the wheels. It had the wrong wheels on it. The original 1LE wheels are not on this vehicle. And yeah, so we got a fairly new engine, 1,800 miles. I am going to remove the wiring system for the DSX flex fuel system. It's pretty cool. It's a nice setup with the, you know, lines and the way that they have it there. But I'm just not a fan of the wiring. I'm gonna tell you this. I like the DIY kit better from what is it, DIY 5 Gen, simply because I'm not tapping into a coil pack. And while the power that's used for this is very minimal, it's still, you're taking power away from a smart coil. I just don't think that that's a great idea, a great way to do it. Why not take it off the evaporative canister purge system, the valve that's on that, or a sensor for that, which literally takes you nothing off of anything that's running something as critical as a coil. So I am going to change that, because it just has a single wire. You see that little skinny wire, and then that little skinny wire is then routed back through and around. And something so critical as E85 blend in your mixture, it just doesn't seem too smart for me. We're gonna change the brisk plugs. We've got new plug wires coming for this. Yeah, we got a lot of updates on the way. So I've removed the factory air box so that I can get a better look at this cooling system and explain it to you. It looks like a basket of snakes, right? Sure does. It does to me too. What you see is down there on the lower hose, right down there, you'll see that's the water inlet for your oil cooler. Now that goes back to the side of the oil pan, and that's taking nice cool water from the bottom of your radiator, circulating it through the oil cooler, circulating cool water through the oil cooler, and then it comes out of the oil cooler. Now, if you look at your oil temperatures, they're anywhere from 240 to 270. If you're racing this car, they could be higher than that. I've seen guys at the track with 300-degree oil cooler or oil temperatures. And it discharges it right to the driver's side block. Yep. So what essentially you've got is you've got this hose down here that's taking the cold water from your radiator, which understand is that's below what your thermostat is. Your thermostat is the outlet temperature. That's your outlet temperature. That's telling you what your temperature is. So if you're riding at thermostat at 180 degrees, this colder water here, down here in the bottom, is a lot colder than 180 degrees. Okay, so that means you're pumping into, through the water pump over here, okay, that hot water is coming out of the oil cooler and being discharged directly into the driver's side of the block at the head. Yep, right there in the front, going straight into the block. And imagine if you're racing, half the motor is running at 200 something degrees, because yeah, it is blending with the coolant coming across, but it's also discharging at the same rate of the water coming out of the oil cooler. So you have 250 to 280 degree water that is essentially mixing with your 140, 150, and it's raising it up on the driver's side, while the passenger side is getting a direct flow of that coolant. Now, does that make sense to anybody at all? Does it make any sense that the water comes out of the radiator, the bottom of the radiator, engine radiator, goes across, goes to your water pump, water stolen from that hose, goes through your oil cooler, raises it up to 250, 260, 270 degrees, whatever your oil temperatures are. It's sharing that water temperature. It's pulling that heat from the oil. That water is going back into the driver's side of the block. Then it's circulating around the engine, coming from the jackets around the cylinders, coming up. Now you wonder why a lot of people are having, oil burn issues and stuff like that. Well, hear me out here. If you got a mismatch of temperatures across the block, it could also, be a problem in ring seal. So here we go again. Now we got cool water meeting with hot water. Where's the problem? If you remove that circuit from the engine, now your entire engine is seeing what's coming out of the radiator, going through the water pump, and then circulating through the engine together at the same temperature as it's discharged up here to return back to the radiator at 180 degrees. Now, that's 180 degrees is usually what the thermostat temperature, 185 is usually what your running temperature is. So 185 to 280. That imbalance can change the tuning on your cylinders. That heat imbalance can change this tuning on what your spark plug gap could be, what your spark plug heat range could be, what your dwell time on each one of these coil packs as they're individually changed and timing is changed. So all of this matters. So when you get all of this in balance and you get the right heat range plugs and you get the right type of plug and your engine is now happy, the ability to make power using less fuel is amazing. And that's what I'm doing with this car. So Cordis has got this auxiliary tank that goes right here behind the radiator. Check this thing out. And it's beautiful construction. They make a really pretty part. I mean, they bend this over. The welds are absolutely phenomenal. The finish is phenomenal. I love the gates. Heat shrink. That's a really, really amazing part. But check this out. This coolant's coming out of the supercharger, comes down here, goes into that tank. Then it comes out of that tank and drops down into the water pump. From the water pump, it's pushing it to the auxiliary cooler, which is in the fender first. From the auxiliary cooler, it pushes it into the bottom of the heat exchanger. Now understand, the factory heat exchanger only holds 14 to 16 ounces of coolant. That's it, only 14 to 16 ounces. Then it comes up to the top of that heat exchanger where you see that hose right there. That hose is now right next to your heated up bottle there. Goes all the way across in an aluminum tube and then goes up to your supercharger. Adding this tank is not going to help you one bit, because the problem is it mounts below the bricks. And if you take the cap off, there's an air gap in there. See it? All right. Now, if these bricks were full, and I did that, that should, by the pressure of coolant being in the bricks, be pushing coolant over here and having this overflow and come out. So if this isn't completely sealed with no extra airspace, then it would be a great part. So what it's relying on is just adding an extra cavity so your pump can keep pumping and pumping the fluid through. So my plan for this car is I'm removing the cordless container because literally it just sits behind the radiator. And I mean, look at this. It's beautiful. It really is, really just, their workmanship is outstanding. But it's literally sitting in front of your hot fan. And if your water's coming back to the radiator at 180 to 200 degrees, if you're on a track day, 220 degrees in Texas or hot Atlanta, I mean, what chance have you got to keep your bricks under 200 degrees and stop pulling timing out of your power? You really, there's just no chance of that. And it's a little disconcerting, to be honest with you. So we're going to remove this. I have a new bottle that I've just had made. It's a clear bottle. It's going to mount right up here. It's not as large as the one that I had before, but its functionality will be far greater. It's made specifically for supercharged and turbocharged heat exchangers, and it's going to be amazing. I will have that on this car. Now, the plan for this vehicle is this is going to be a track purpose car with occasional street driving. And she is beautiful. That Anderson Composites carbon front end, I have to keep looking at it because it's so badass. It really is. Those pieces are just amazing. And I love this color. I would give my customer my car and take this one. I just love this color so much. And if he sees this video, he may actually agree to that. But this is going to be a track purpose car. So because we have this as an intent to build for a customer, I'm going to set this car up for a track day, February 15th and February 16th. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my basic cooling mod. So here's the plan for this build. Our initial test and our initial dyno is going to be with my revised cooling system. And I'm going to use all the stock components. And we're going to come out of the LT4 engine, out of the manifold here. We're going to go to my expansion tank, which is a true 5 PSI expansion tank. It's going to come out of that expansion tank and go directly into the coolant pump. It's going to come from the coolant pump directly into the aluminum line here that goes over to the top of the factory heat exchanger. It's going to go from the top of the heat exchanger to the bottom of the heat exchanger and then into the auxiliary. And then from the auxiliary, it's going to come up through here and go directly in. So why are we going to come from the auxiliary and come here instead of the other way around? Well, here's the benefit. The auxiliary heat exchanger is way down here. The top of the factory heat exchanger is right up in the top here at the top of the radiator. And the bricks are way up here. Where's a better place to trap bubbles? Well, that would be in the main heat exchanger in the front of the car. Now, my Patriot Motorsports heat exchanger actually has a tap on it with a valve that you can pull any bubbles when you're purging the system, so it's completely sealed with fluid into the expansion tank. This system doesn't have that capability. So what we're doing is we're just going to reverse the flow, and any bubbles that would get in the system would be trapped in the factory heat exchanger. Let me say that again. Any bubbles that will get into the system will be trapped in the factory heat exchanger. There will also, if there's any bubbles that go through the system, will come out and go into the bottle, because the bottle is actually higher than the bricks. That's a really important point, is making sure that the expansion tank overflow is higher than the bricks. Eventually, if you leave the pump on and let it run, it will pull all of the heat out of the bricks and it'll pull all of the air out of the bricks, and you'll have a completely bled system. So we're going to do that for the first dyno day and for the first track day. So it's just going to be a reverse of the cooling system, addition of my expansion tank, and we're going to see how that runs. We're also going to change the spark plugs, put the brisk plugs in it, which are the correct heat range for the LT4 engine, and we're going to tune it on both 93 and probably an E20 to an E30 blend. And that's what we're going to do with this car. All right, Fletchy's taking a nap. He's getting tired of listening to me talk, huh? Right? You're just happy to be here, huh? Exactly. He's the best. Yes, you are. You're the best. You're the best. You're the best doggy ever. That's it. That's my Fletcher. Actually, it's my girlfriend's Fletcher, but I'm claiming him. Huh, buddy? Huh, buddy? All right, you got 30 seconds of Fletcher. Awesome. All right, so once again, I think this is just so dope, it's badass. But check this out. They put this grill mesh in it, which did not have a hole for the tow hook. And instead of putting the big monster tow hook in it, I bought this one and put this on there. Now, understand, there's this massive blockage right here now for the impact absorber. So for our first track day, I'm going to remove that impact absorber. I'm also going to take all of this stuff off, because that's what I got to do to get to it. That is so badass. I love how this is rigid, but it doesn't have the ability to remove the end of the splitter, because I have an idea for that. The other thing I'm going to do is this car does not have the Aero directional tire diverters that deflect the airflow away from the tires. That's missing. It's also missing the little sacrificial lip thing that goes right here. That's it. It still has the factory heat exchanger for the A10, but it's also missing the scoops that go right here. I'll insert a photo so you see what those are. But there's a kit that removes these two panels and replaces it with two scoops. And they catch the air and they actually divert it left to right and right to left. And then it has a new panel here and here, which opens up this entire area, so the airflow from the engine compartment that gets behind the radiator will exit the car through the fender wells. You've seen the guys that put fender vents and stuff like that. Well, there's a reason for that. That gets a lot of heat and a lot of airflow and a lot of pressure from this big honking huge opening to escape. And then that'll get it out of the car. And that's very, very important. So what I'm about to do is remove all of these panels, remove this aluminum subframe I'll remove all of these panels. So what I'm going to do now is remove all of these panels, remove the aluminum subframe, and go through the entire car. Again, this is a 2019 with 15,000 miles. It's an Ohio car, so it's got little surface rust. She ain't all that pretty, but she's going to get all cleaned up. We're going to get all this cleaned up. And we're going to paint stuff. We're going to get it nice. We're going to make sure that there's no corrosion. And we're going to make it pretty again. Clearly, whoever changed the differential fluid didn't put a new O-ring on that, or a new... it looks like it's got a bad O-ring, so we're going to replace that. These lines, check this out. Imagine this. So your transmission has a thermostat right here at 190 degrees. That's this thing right here. Okay, so this fluid comes out of here and it goes across underneath the engine, right by your exhaust system, to the front of the car, goes across the bottom here, and then most people will argue with me, but it goes all the way to the top of the radiator, the engine radiator, goes through the side of the engine radiator, then jumps over here and goes into auxiliary radiator, comes from this auxiliary radiator, where it comes back out again, and here we are, and it's gonna now take another path, this line here, right next to the catalytic converter, right next to the exhaust system, all the way down here next to the exhaust system, all the way back here, and over to your ELSD. Yep, it's using the ATF as a cooler for your rear axle. Now, anybody that's ever put a GoPro on the back of a Camaro and done a track day knows that in about 15 minutes, the GoPro is going to overheat due to the amount of heat that's coming out. So then we're going to come out of this rear end, come up over here, nice little bend, go right past the hot exhaust again, go up over the top of the transmission where you can't see anything, and then we're going to come right back in here. I'm sorry I don't have a flashlight here for you guys, but that's where it goes back in. All in the name of cooling. Can you believe it? Just say it isn't so. All right, so I said a lot. If you followed along in the video, there's a lot of technical information in this video. If you have any questions, leave a comment. Please, I love the comments. I answer every single one that I see. Please, leave a comment. I like to inspire the conversation. If you have a ZL11LE, if you have a ZL1, if you have an A10 car, let's talk. Yeah, you 6-speed guys, you know, I used to love to roll my gears. Now I'm smarter. These cars are so much faster, and they can do a lot more for your driving, and you not have to sit there and take your concentration off. Oh shit, what gear do I need to be in? Yeah, no, it's done. It's done that thinking for you, so you can focus on passing the next ZL11LE that is a 6-speed, or the Z06 with the Z07 package, or the C7 Z06 that's overheating, or the C6 Corvette or Z06 that's overheating. You can be out there with a Camaro and kicking ass. And that's why I love this car. That's why I'm putting my focus on this car and my other one right over there, to show you guys what it takes to make these cars really, really perform on the racetrack. Have I gotten to competition yet? No, but we'll do that in 2025. Follow along. I got a lot of great supporters. Banks has been amazing. We got the new iDash going on this car as soon as it's available. We're a couple weeks behind right now on getting that done, simply because it's not available. But we're going to have it on here. I cannot wait. There's more to go with that. But stay tuned to the channel. Be sure you smash that bell for notifications and hit the subscribe button. It helps the channel grow, but it gives you a notification every single time I pop a new video up and I put up a new short. So I'll talk to you guys later. Have a blessed day.
I wonder what they're talking about in there. These windows are so dirty.
You and that turbo.
First of all, all the way to the red line.
You know you're in 6.
That wasn't spinning.
It sounded